Hello and welcome back to this week's episode of A Brief History Of, and today we'll be talking about the Bennie Railplane. The evolution of railways, or railroads if you're not from the UK, has been a non-stop endeavour in terms of signalling and train control. However, many of the fundamentals have generally stayed the same. There have been some attempts to change the tried and tested formula. I'm looking at you, Maglev.
He's looking at you, kid.
But the vast majority of rail transport works on the same principles as it did in the Industrial Revolution. The Bennie Railplane was an attempt to create a new form of rail-based transport by mixing aviation and trains. However, the concept didn't take off. Okay, I'm going to warn you guys that there may be a couple of terrible puns in this week's episode. The railplane was the brainchild of Glaswegian-born George Bennie. The concept of the railplane was to provide members of the public an alternative to the slow and smoky rail transport of the early 20th century. Development began on the George Bennie Airspeed Railway in 1921 and culminated in a working prototype in 1930. Even though Bennie gained the patent for the railplane in 1923, he lacked a formal engineering education, so he enlisted engineer Hugh Fraser to create the technical designs for the project. The project actually got a lot of interest during its development, with Bennie winning a gold medal at the Industrial Exhibition in Edinburgh in 1922. The concept took cues from aircraft of the time and mixed it with the idea of a monorail, albeit actually running on more than one rail. An overhead monorail is actually a regular railway upside down. This is an oversimplified explanation though. Each rail car would be powered by a propeller on each end, powered by an electric motor fed by an internal combustion engine. Although the design did allow for an electric current to be picked up from a live rail. The design of the passenger cabin actually looked rather plush, with luxury carpets, real wood panelling and even window curtains. The outside, however, is much more of a resemblance of a cigar tube. Being the 1920s and 1930s and all, you probably would have been allowed to smoke a cigar, whilst you travelled at the advertised top speed of 120 miles per hour. However, in practice, the railplane never saw speeds as high as that. Bennie spurred on with the initial interest in his concept, and to encourage financial backing for his plans, built a fully working prototype in 1930. It consisted of one carriage and a test track supported by steel girders, 426 feet long, 30 feet above the railway at Milngave. He had promotional posters printed, gave out free postcards and even had a model made to showcase the concept. On the 8th of July 1930, the media and special guests were taken for rides, with British Parfait filming for posterity. Much of the feedback was positive, with many people complimenting the silent and smooth ride of the railplane. Bennie boasted journey times of 20 minutes between Glasgow and Edinburgh, a trip that even today takes the best part of an hour. George's Railway also claimed to cost around 50% of a conventional one to build, however this is debatable. Many of the officials decided to chew over the concept, however no investment came in. To try to stop the project from hitting the buffers, Bennie spent several years travelling the world to secure investment. Sadly for Bennie, the conventional railway had been established for the best part of a century, and city and civil planners did not want to take the risk on an unproven new concept, especially so soon after the Great Depression and the ever-increasing tension in Europe. Bennie was just too ahead of his time and the concept never really gained traction. Okay, I'll try and stop the puns. Despite all the positivity and Bennie's efforts over the course of nearly a decade, no one came forward, and in 1937 Bennie went bankrupt. For almost 20 years the suspended railway stood slowly rusting, like a sad monument to what could have been. Surprisingly, the structure survived World War II when scrap metal was in high demand. Bennie went on to form a number of other companies aimed at selling his railway to the post-war world. He even tried to sell the concept along with desert irrigation between locations such as the River Nile, the Dead Sea, Baghdad and Damascus. Again, unfortunately, Bennie failed to secure interest. Following the failure of his attempts to get the railplane project off the ground, Bennie is said to have opened a herbalist shop. The remains of the railplane didn't manage to survive the scrapyard for much longer, finally being torn down in 1956. And sadly, Bennie passed away the following year, broke and in obscurity. I find the story of the railplane so sad, as I think it would have been a fun way to travel city to city. The closest thing we have to the railplane today is the Wuppertal Suspension Railway, which actually predates Bennie's railplane by around 25 years. What's the weirdest form of transport you've been on? Let me know in the comments below. I should also say sorry today for my voice as I'm coming down with a bit of a cold. And as always, thanks for watching. Did you enjoy the video? I hope you did. If that's the case, leave a like and a comment below. New episodes are released every Thursday, and the best way to see them is via subscription. You can help the channel grow by sharing videos with your friends, and there's also a Patreon link down below if you fancy financially supporting the channel. I look forward to seeing you on the next one.